Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Coach Skip Fun Day. Back once again, kicking in for you and for yours. And I got to ask some questions about Malcolm X and his connection to the city of Jackson, Michigan. So I'm gonna build it up and I'm gonna show the connection to it. You know what I'm saying? Just to show that I know he came to Jackson, Michigan. He was running all through Michigan, really. You know what I'm saying? Many different spots he went through. The first thing I'm bringing to evidence is the Autobiography of Malcolm X. This is chapter one, and this is the part where he comes into Michigan. You know what I'm saying? We won't read about that part first. From this is chapter one. My two other images of my father both outside the home. One was his role as a Baptist preacher. He never pastored in any regular church of his own. He was always a visiting preacher. I remember especially his favorite sermon, "That little black train is coming, and you better get all your business right." I guess it's also a his association to the Back to Africa movement with Marcus Garvey. Black train homeward. My brother Filbert, and one just older than me, loved church, but he confused and amazed me. He would sit googly-eyed at my father and jump and shout as he preached, while the congregation jumped and shouted behind him, in their souls and their bodies devoted to the singing and praying. Even at that young age, I could not just believe in the Christian concept of Jesus as someone divine. No religious person until I was a man in my 20s and then in prison couldn't tell me anything. I have very little respect for most people who represent a religion. In his role as a preacher, my father had my most contact with the Negroes of Lansing. He in Lansing, Michigan, you know. Probably the most famous person in Lansing, Michigan you might know is Magic Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of sad, which is good, but then again, it's kind of sad that, he's more well known than, Malcolm X being there. In his role as a preacher, my father had most contact with the Negroes of Lansing. Believe me when I tell you that those Negroes were in bad shape then. They are still in bad shape, though in a different way. By that I mean, I don't know, a town with a higher percentage of complacent, misguided, so-called middle-class Negro type status symbol oriented, integration seeking type Negroes. Just recently, I sat in the lobby at the lobby of the United Nations talking to the African ambassador and his wife. When they came up to me and said, "You know me," I was a little embarrassed because I thought he was someone I should remember. Then it turned out he's one of those bragging, self-satisfied, middle-class Lansing Negroes. I wasn't integrating. He was the type that would never been associated with Africa until the fact of having African friends became a status symbol. All right, so talk about back then how successful Lansing Negroes were such as waiters and bootlicks. To become become janitors in some downtown store was highly respected. The real leading the big shots in the voice of the race were the waiters at the Lansing Country Club and the shoe sign boys at the state capitol. Not only the niggers who had any money were the real ones with the number of rackets who ran the gambling houses or lived some sort of way parasitically off the poorest ones who were the masses. No niggers were hired by them by Lansing's biggest automobile plant or the Rio plant. Do you remember the Rio? It was manufactured in Lansing in REOs. The man who was named for also lived in Lansing. So black folks could not get a job at Oldsmobile. You know what I'm saying? That was not cracking for them during this time. When the war came along, they hired some Negro janitors. The bulk of the Negroes were either on welfare, WPA, or they starved. Wow. So all this happened in Lansing, Michigan. I knew the recollections of my father, God preaching, were mainly fed us and clothed us. He also did our jobs, but still the image of him made me the proudest when he was crusading and militant campaigning the words of Marcus Garvey. As a young man, as young as I was then, I knew from what I overheard my father was saying was making something of a tough man. I remember my old lady grinning and saying to my father, "You are scaring these white folks to death." One of the other reasons I felt my father favored me was that the best of my remembrance, it was only me that he sometimes took to UNIA, Garvey's UNIA meetings, which often held quietly in different people's homes. There were never more than a few people at a time, in any one time, 20 at most. but that was a lot, packed into someone's living room. I noticed how they act differently. I know there were sometimes they were the same people who jumped and shouted in church. But in these meetings, both they and my father were more intense, more intelligent, and more down to earth. It made me feel the same way. So the messages of Marcus Garvey, and how his father was spreading it throughout Michigan, that's how he came to touch many places, Malcolm X. But, his father, like he said before, his father and his mother was very, very deep in the UNIA. And that's something that's kind of missed on, a lot of the subjects and stuff like that. Let's get down to the subject at hand. Now, this right here is out of this is Manny Marable Halls. And I know people got some kind of beef with this Manny Marable Halls and Malcolm X, Reinvention of Life. And this is out of his book, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get into all the misgivings and nothing like that. I'm just going to read, his connection, and how much of the connection he got with, like I said, Jackson and stuff like that. But the first part was just to show how the UNIA was up and down Michigan. Perhaps the thousands of poor Southern migrants constituted the majority of Detroit's Black working class. The city continued to be a mecca for the cause. In 1924, Garvey estimated membership in the city at 7,000. It was an African-American migrant population predominantly between the ages 20 and 44, most of whom were unmarried men, semi-skilled and unskilled. Hundreds found employment at Henry Ford River Rouge plants, but others routinely were hired only in dangerous jobs in the foundries. These young migrant workers continued to be the prime consistency for the Garvey movement. Well into the 1930s, Garvey branches that thrived in Michigan's smaller cities and towns, despite or perhaps because of the advent of the Great Depression. Between 1921 and 1933, 15 UNIA division branches were established there. Earl Little, Malcolm X's daddy, organized fleets of cars for Garvey as to travel to UNIA gatherings, usually held in Detroit, and opposed the movement principles in his own household. African Americans and even Caribbean newspapers were read at home, Winifred recalled. And the children were regularly tutored about what was going on in the Caribbean area and parts of Africa, as well as news of the movement around the country. From these educational efforts grew the Pan-African perspective that would become so crucial for Malcolm's later life. The little children were consistently drilled in the principles of Garveyism, to the extent they expressed their Black nationalist views at school. For example, one morning followed the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of the national anthem at school. Winifred informed his teacher that Blacks also had their own national anthem. Instructed to sing it, Winifred complied and began with these words, "Ethiopia, the land of the free." That created some problems, Winifred recalled, because here's this little nigger that feels he is just as equal to everybody, got his own national anthem that he sings, and he's proud of it. It wasn't the way they wanted things to go. So as we talked about here, and he admits it here, there's 15 divisions of the UNIA branches that's established there. You know what I'm saying? Between 1921 and 1933. Now, this is further down the chapter some. I'm still in Manny Marable's book, Malcolm X, A Reinvention of Life. A section of Betty Shabazz maintained his longest intimate relationship with Malcolm. Several years his senior, B was the white woman he was with, had been a professional dancer at small-time clubs. She was pleasant-looking but not stunning. It is difficult to know her motives having an open sexual relationship with a Black teenager. Malcolm himself did little to illuminate them. In his autobiography, he devoted far more attention to the plight of Gloria than in any discussion of B, who was referred to Sophia. He placed the initial meeting at the Roseland and accumulated sex in mere hours, but this story, I believe, was fabrication. Let's stop there. Hold on. Okay. Now, although B was not his regular girlfriend, Malcolm continued to see other women. In the late 1941 through 1942, he maintained a lively correspondence with several women who either lived in Boston or Michigan. In a mature, intimate relationship with another woman, with a number of them. In November 1941, he wrote a letter to Zora Holman of Jackson, Michigan, for instance. Malcolm bragged that they had already traveled through 23 different states, apparently riding from a train. The note had been headed towards Florida, and he hoped to travel to California soon. There was Roberta Jo of Kalamazoo, Edith Robinson of Boston, and a Charlotte from Jackson, and a Catherine Haynes, dashing off a one-page letter of her summer resort at Martha Vineyard, describing her bedroom. These diverse contacts may reinforce Malcolm's growing belief that most women were dishonest and cannot be trusted. He later bluntly warned, never ask a woman about other men. She either tell you a lie and tell you what you might not want to hear in the first place. But as it showed, he was writing two women from Jackson, you know what I'm saying, so they've been here. Now, we don't get Jackson, you know what I'm saying, so Zora Holman of Jackson, Michigan, and a Charlotte from Jackson, Michigan, you know. So he's been around the Jackson, Michigan area before. We can go a little bit more deeper into the UNIA chapters. Now, this is from, where is it from, was? Yeah. This is Garveyism and Idlewild. You know, Idlewild. And y'all seen the movie by, by Outkast. That was a UNIA chapter up in northern Michigan. And we're going to start about Garveyism in Detroit and other Michigan towns. Garvey had a large following in Michigan, particularly in Detroit and Idlewild. In 1916, he visited Detroit during a speaking tour shortly after arriving in the United States. He returned in June 1919, and then again on 6 other occasions prior to being incarcerated in federal prison in Atlanta in 1925. Lee reported that the Detroit chapter of UNI-ACL was organized following a historic first international convention of the Negro peoples of the world, which convened in Harlem from August 1st to 31st, 1920. Among their delegates in attendance were Reverend A.D. Williams of Detroit, who returned home ready to organize. Detroit Garveyite John Charles Zampe recalled how Williams came back to Detroit with a red, black, and green flag and walked the streets of Detroit accompanied by others played the trombone and so on. He began the organization Detroit Division. Detroit Branch Division started as Detroit Division number 125 and later number 407. Experienced astonishing growth, probably unrivaled in the history of the UNIA, except possibly by New York. Detroit in turn gave birth to numerous Michigan branches and divisions. We soon had membership over 300 whose ages ranged from 18 to 75 years old, Zampe cited. Zampe noted a Detroit division beginnings. 3 years later, in the spring of 1923, a testimony given at Garvey's trial for trumped up federal charges of mail fraud recorded a dramatic leap in Detroit division membership, then reportedly numbering 4,000. Okay, so that's one division, you know what I'm saying? And it gave birth to many other divisions. A year later, on August 5th, 1924, Detroit Division President F.E. Johnson announced at the 4th UNIA Convention the branch has now was over 7,000 strong and considered a power in the city. Moreover, had organized and supervised divisions in the suburbs and neighboring vicinity of Detroit. So, Detroit chapter not only prospered numerically, but also economically. By 1927, 2 years after Garvey's was convicted of mail fraud while in prison in Atlanta penitentiary, his lawyer said the Detroit division owned as much as 50,000 worth of assets, mostly property. Significantly, this is after the UNIA began a steep decline in the absence of its charismatic leader. According to Zampe, Detroit Garveyites took to their heart their leader's dictum of self-reliance. First, we bought property at 1516 Russell Street. So that's what they started doing. One of the wealthiest UNIAs, the Michigan branch is one of the wealthiest UNIAs there was. And we're going to get to these branches. You know what I'm saying? There's more on another one, more on Idlewild. In the case of Garveyism in Idlewild, Michigan, Stephen cited that Lee, on reviewing a number of original membership cards in UNIA Central Division, the New York files. So these are the head files on the UNIA, 1925 to 1926, to be extremely helpful. The files are located at the Schomburg Center of Research in Black Culture, Marcus Garvey Collection, and cited in Martin's 1976 Race First, the Ideology and Organization Struggles of Marcus Garvey and the Negro Improvement Association, as well as Hill's 1983-1990 edition of the Marcus Garvey U.N.I.A. Negro Improvement Papers. Both of them, Tony Martin, who's a strange scholar on Marcus Garvey, and Hill, you know what I'm saying? Those are damn good books you should read if you want to really learn the inner workings of the movement. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot more books they got on that, but it's a damn good place to start at. Providing important information during the early stages of the research process. In the research that followed the Idlewild division, a report quoting the UNIA Secretary General Henry Davis, right? So once Garvey was out of he was in the feds, you know what I'm saying? So you got some dummies out here, you know what I'm saying it was Carlos Cooks. Carlos Cooks just had an advance, you know, he had an auxiliary. She was the Secretary General, Henry, you know, when he left. This was the one when Garvey was in prison, who was one of the people that was in charge. Way above Carlos Cooks' paid rating. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the females really ran it, you know what I'm saying, in the UNIA. The males just mainly just a figurehead. The females did most of the work. We really get read into that. Another lecture, another video for another time. All right. The UNIA Secretary General Henrietta Vin Davis, world-famous singer, and there's a video on her, was published in the May 3rd, 1930 NW, The Negro World, listing charters to issue and renew in new branches. The following list of the Michigan UNIA branches was drawn from the UNIA Central Division, CD, New York, files, 1925 to 1926. The list of divisions is identified along with the division number. Number 1, Albion, Michigan. Albion had a big, you know, was a big population. The town still mostly black now, but you know what I'm saying, it had a big population, 70,000, you know, some back when the steel mills was popping. There was a lot of black people there. Had segregated schools in Ottawa. You know, Albion, Michigan, number 179, CD, Ann Arbor, branch, Detroit, number 125, which we just discussed, the head branch, number 170, Flint, number 276, Halfway, I never heard that, Negro World, Hamtramck, number 59, Idlewild, number 895, and number 126, Jackson, number 349, CD, Kalamazoo, Macomb Garden, number 752, or number 104, Muskegon, North Detroit, Pontiac, Whitten Road, River Ridge, and Ypsilanti. So those were the areas where the UNIA chapters were at. As you see, it says Jackson, number 1349. You know what I'm saying? So it was a UNIA presence here in Jackson. You know, the one in Albion, though, I did a video on that, and they rebirthing that one. You know what I'm saying? Through going through the segregated schools and stuff like that. They rebirthing the you know what I'm saying? They're doing a recall of an election. They gave much homage to Marcus Garvey for that. You know what I'm saying? It's in the video that I did on that situation. So yes, Michigan was one of the wealthiest UNIA's black organizations ever in the world, and it was more thoroughly organized here in Michigan. As I said, you know what I'm saying? The Detroit branch alone has 7,000, and it's the branch that gave birth to Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? Because his father used to preach up and down at these UNIA spots, as we named up in here, the Albion spot, the Ann Arbor, Detroit, the Jacksons, the Kalamazoo, the Idlewilds, Muskegons, Ypsilantis, you know. So he used to preach at all these spots, getting the money, building the money on them. You know what I'm saying? He was an organizer. That's what he did. Anywho, and as we know, he got killed by the Ku Klux Klan up here, called the Black Legion, you know, in Michigan. So, you know, but yes, I was saying, if showing the Malcolm X and his Jackson connection, you know, and how he used to come visit and stuff like that, while his father was preaching, you know, all these different spots. And, you know, when you look for these spots, when you look for them, it's not going to be a UNIA hall, like a big Liberty Hall, like in New York City. It's probably going to be like somebody's house, like they discussed, you know what I'm saying? Somebody's front room where people just came in and gaggerated and, you know, hooked it up and talked about making moves like that. That's all it takes, really. You know, you got no big UNIA hall. Just you and a couple guys, you know what I'm saying? A couple like-minded folks, guys and girls, a couple like-minded folks, you know what I'm saying? Getting together, just start spitting that stuff. What y'all want to do? This is what they did. They made it, created a division, you know what I'm saying? That made the largest black organization in the world, one of the engines that made it. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, this is Cold Skill Fun Day, showing Malcolm X connection to Jackson through the UNIA and Garveyism. So hope y'all enjoyed that video. That's pretty nice. Something new that maybe you don't know about. Subscribe to the channel. Have a good one. Peace.